President Biden delivered remarks from the Oval Office to address his departure from the 2024 presidential race.
There is a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. But there's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices. And that time and place is now.
Join us now, Montana Senator Steve Daines. He chairs the National Republican Senatorial Committee. And Senator, it's good to see you. Welcome.
Good to join you, Joe.
Last night, does it matter what really went on but behind the scenes, Senator? I'm just wondering your interpretation. I guess it matters in whether Republicans have a problem with President Biden staying on through the rest of his term. And I mean, the story changed, obviously, a couple of times as to, why he decided over the weekend, after being so strident about staying in the race. Do we just put it behind us and just Kamala Harris is going to be the nominee and we work on the Senate, you work on the Senate from here on out, or do we look back at what really happened? It doesn't matter.
Well, look, what we saw last night was 11 minutes of rambling by Joe Biden and projecting American weakness yet again. Last night, our Alaskan Air Force, Northern Command, intercepted Chinese and Russian aircraft flying in joint formation. That's the first time that's ever happened, challenging our airspace. That's what our adversaries are doing, exploiting the weakness of this administration and Joe Biden. He still has 6 more months, and of course, his condition won't get better, only grow worse. But I also heard him say it's time for fresh new voices. Look, if you like San Francisco politics, you're going to love Kamala Harris. She's not Scranton Joe. She's truly a San Francisco radical. Joe, I served with Kamala Harris for 4 years in the U.S. Senate side by side. She was ranked the most liberal U.S. Senator of all 100 to the left of Bernie Sanders. That's chilling. She's taken these radical positions of banning fracking, abolishing ICE, decriminalizing border crossings. So there's nothing moderate about Kamala Harris. She truly is radical in her policies, and is evidenced yesterday by skipping the address by Prime Minister Netanyahu to a joint session of Congress. Speaker Mike Johnson was there. It's protocol to have the Vice President of the United States sitting next to Speaker Johnson. She skipped out on it. That sent, I think, a very chilling message to one of our most important allies in the world, and that's Israel.
And Senator, what you brought up, I mean, it was China and Russia, and we know recently that's become more of an alliance maybe than we would like, or that we saw in the past. That's a real issue. Are they testing us? Are they likely to continue to test us if President Biden stays in office for the rest of his term? And what would Republicans suggest, or what would their preference be? Do you think Vice President Harris should take over immediately?
Well, I don't think Joe Biden is capable of serving as our president. He's not able to run for re-election. He's not able to serve in the Oval Office. But I'm very concerned. And the message again yesterday, when Kamala Harris basically brushes off Prime Minister Netanyahu, this emboldens the Iranians. The Iranians fear President Trump. The Iranians would love to see Kamala Harris elected as President of the United States. That by itself ought to be a very strong message to the American people around why it's so important that President Trump is elected, who will restore the peace through strength doctrines of Ronald Reagan. We were at peace. The world was much more stable under President Trump because our adversaries fear strength. They exploit weakness. And Kamala Harris is yet another weak leader. And I'll tell you, she's not a fresh voice. She is one of the most radical voices in the Democrat Party. And they're trying to scrub her record now. You're seeing it. She was appointed the border czar by President Biden. They're trying to scrub that right now. She was ranked, again, the most liberal U.S. senator. They're trying to scrub that on the internet as we speak. They're trying to cover her tracks. And as the American people start to see who Kamala Harris really is and her policy positions, they're going to reject a San Francisco radical and they'll elect President Trump. Look at what's being talked about perhaps as the new Secretary of Treasury. They're talking names for Kamala Harris like Gary Gensler and Elizabeth Warren. That would send a really strong message to Wall Street about watch out. You've got radicals now coming into the Treasury.
Senator, the down, and you are very involved, obviously, with efforts to get a majority for Republicans in the Senate. And there was a lot of down ballot concern about President Biden being on the ticket. Some of the betting sites narrowed when Vice President Kamala Harris became the presumed nominee. Has anything changed in any of the races? Is the optimism about, I don't know, your home state, Montana, or any of the other close states, are you still optimistic? Which ones do you think Republicans are going to be able to flip?
Yeah, I really don't see Harris's entry as a major reset, both in terms of the top of the ballot for the president and down ballot. I mean, there's going to be a little bit of a Harris honeymoon going on. I'll probably go through the Democrat convention in Chicago. But we turn the corner on Labor Day. It's going to be a clear contrast. I'm not sure there's ever been a greater contrast between two presidential candidates and their policy positions and their ideology. But we've seen the CNN poll yesterday that came out, still had Trump nationally up 49-46. And within the battleground states where it really matters, I don't see it appreciably affecting our down ballot Senate races. In fact, it may make this easier for us because we don't have to argue about Joe Biden's age. It's about Joe Biden's policies, in this case, Kamala Harris's policies, and linking these Democrats to the policies of Kamala Harris and the Democrats is really what the election is going to be about. So it takes the age issue off the table and gets us back to focus on policies. As the American people see the incredible difference between the policies that we stand for and Kamala Harris will stand for, they're going to reject a San Francisco radical.
So if you were, if we were just talking somewhere and it wasn't on TV, are there any of these races where you're looking where maybe you weren't expecting a Republican to be quite as competitive? What's really got your interest? Any couple of states where you're thinking, wow, this could be very, very interesting? Any of those? What would they be?
Yeah, we're watching. But first of all, let me state the obvious. We're going to win West Virginia. Tim Sheehy is going to win Montana. I'll tell you, Kamala Harris helps us in Montana because she's so far left. But then you start looking at some of these other interesting races developing. A race like Nella Domenici out in New Mexico, we had Trump down just 1 point and Nella down 3 points in a state that's pretty blue. And so I think with Kamala Harris now on the ballot, once her record is exposed, the American people have a chance to digest that. I think this actually gets worse for the Democrats in some of these key swing states for the United States Senate, not better.
There are quite a few races, and I mean, I'm just looking at the list, and there's
Joe. Okay, another. Yeah, here's another couple of races though. Cook Political moved Nevada to toss up for the U.S. Senate. That's Sam Brown in Nevada. They moved Michigan to toss up. That's Mike Rogers. That's an open seat because Senator Stabenow retired. That race is tied at 40-40. Again, just moved to toss-up status. If you saw, there was a rally, of course, in Michigan with Trump on Saturday. Mike Rogers, primary opponent, withdrew from the race and endorsed Mike Rogers. Mike was chairman of the House Intelligence Committee for many years. Great candidate. So these are a couple of races that aren't getting the attention they probably deserve and are pickup seats for Republicans.
Always interesting to handicap and talk about those things, and you got to be a senator, and you got to win 60 seats. I know that's probably your goal in the Senate, but a lot resting on your shoulders, Senator. Good to have you on this morning. Appreciate it, and hope to see you again soon.